So there's always been that kind of traditional challenge of how do we justify this PR campaign and show the value? Because I think actually brand visibility and great PR is actually priceless, but that doesn't, necessarily work when you're talking to investors or kind of C-suite executives going to want to know, okay, how is this, bringing return on investment? How is this benefiting my bottom line? I came to PR because I think, like a lot of people, I actually wanted to be a journalist originally. I loved writing as I was growing up, and when I was at university, I actually worked on the student newspaper. I had my own blog. I even worked at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is the largest arts festival in the world. I worked there as a reviewer. I did some internships at the Guardian, a local news agency, and I kind of really loved the media and telling stories. But I eventually realised I wasn't quite cut out for journalism. I think you've got to be a certain personality, and then that's when I started exploring PR. So I think after 9 months after graduating university, I joined a PR agency which specialises in media and entertainment technology. I worked there for almost 7 years, and now I'm in-house at a company that specialises in video streaming technologies. It's been quite an exciting move for me. I've really been able to get my teeth into a lot of PR campaigns, but also internal communications and kind of pure marketing activities. So I feel like I've really been able to broaden my role and I think become much more strategic and kind of really help the company elevate its brand perception.
Fantastic. And you're very young, so you quickly moved from you expanded your role pretty fast. How did you go about that?
I'm not that young, actually. I'm not quite 30 yet, but I worked actually at a PR agency for 7 years. So I'm in my late 20s. I think, I don't know, for me, PR has always just felt quite natural. I've always enjoyed writing and I've always loved getting media coverage. That's still one of my favorite parts of the job. Like when you get like a client or your CEO in like a tier 1 publication, like no one's happier than the PR person at all, because it's just such, how much work goes into it and how much pitching you do and like just kind of getting it over the line. And that's always been one of my favorite things, and also kind of advising on strategic communications, which I've done a little bit with at Bitmovin. I think it's just, for me, it's just always been the kind of passion for communications and helping people express themselves and tell the right message and things like that.
Fantastic. What was your first interaction or first experience with data?
When I was working at my previous company, we had a client that specialized in workplace communication software, and they actually produced a survey around communication overload and the fact that employees are kind of struggling with all these different tools like Slack and email and Microsoft Teams and things like that. So that was my first kind of first time I encountered data in a PR campaign and kind of pitching that out to the media. And I just found that really fascinating, how you can kind of use data to make a company seem more authentic and have credibility to their voice. And that's something that actually continued with other clients around live sports. And with Bitmovin now, we actually have a report on like video developers and that kind of like helping like map out the trends in video streaming. We're also doing another research paper as well. It'll be coming out in a few months. So that was my first introduction to data, and I think it's a really great way to help B2B brands tell their story. Yeah, I think for me, I think I've always kind of really enjoyed it when I have like original research from clients and companies, kind of help add authenticity to their voice and to show them as credible thought leaders, especially in B2B. That's very important because it's all kind of very well a technology vendor saying, this is how the world is. But if you kind of have research, whether that's, for example, for us video developers, or if you have consumer research, which kind of, that's you telling your customers what their customers want, and that kind of again helps them map out trends. So from like more of like a media relations perspective, that's what I've really enjoyed. From actually measuring campaigns, I think it's always been quite tricky for the PR industry. I think there's kind of basic metrics like coverage numbers, and I know there's one that quite a few companies do, like where you kind of track the reach of coverage, basically where you kind of times how many the audience of a publication, and you kind of add that all together in terms of coverage hits, which I've never really enjoyed. I think it's quite disingenuous because sometimes you'll say, oh yeah, this press release had a reach of 500,000 people, and 500,000 people definitely didn't see that news. Maybe 1,000 did if you're lucky, and I never enjoyed that metric. I think actually also a lot of things I'm looking at now are things such as share of voice against competitors. How are we tracking against our competitors in the media? Are we kind of increasing our visibility? How are we tracking against more trade media? How are we tracking against tier one media? Those are some of the key things that we track. Something I'm also kind of looking into and exploring is looking at, for example, what do advertisements cost in the publications that we're getting editorial coverage in, and kind of saying, we got coverage that's kind of worth X amount in advertising, I think is also another good metric where you can kind of justify the value of the PR campaign. I think especially after working at a PR agency, a lot of agencies will know that the PR budget the PR department is the last department to get any budget, and it's the first department to get its budget cut. So there's always been that kind of traditional challenge of how do we justify this PR campaign and show the value, because I think actually brand visibility and great PR is actually priceless, but that doesn't, necessarily work when you're talking to investors or kind of C-suite executives who are going to want to know, okay, how is this, bringing return on investment? How is this benefiting my bottom line? So that has always been an ADOR challenge. And I think things like coverage numbers are kind of like a very basic barometer, but even then, is it actual coverage or is it coverage from a PR newswire and he's kind of, buried on, some website somewhere that will never see the light of day again? So you kind of have to dig into that. But I think a combination of coverage numbers, share of voice against competitors, looking at how much that editorial would cost, for advertising. I think those are all actually quite great ways to kind of justify the PR campaign. And I think ultimately it comes down to like how forward thinking a client or your CEO is in terms of PR, and just kind of understanding, it's not something that kind of shows and kind of just, you can't always kind of show the actual value, but you just know it's valuable. It's kind of inherent and instinctive. I think as for us as a, a smallish B2B company, we kind of in the last few months had, coverage in like Forbes and Euronews and Verdict and Sifted and Business Insider, and I think that just helps create a impression of the company being quite big, and it's just that perception of a company. Okay, this company is quite small, but it's getting their CEO's quoted in all these publications on the topic of video streaming, and it's just the perception of making a company seem bigger, and I think that's quite powerful. I do actually quite like coverage numbers. I think it is quite a basic metric, but it kind of is a good guideline if, and sometimes it's a case of, maybe you get 10 pieces of coverage, but 5 of those are tier one publications. That for me is, they're worth their weight in gold. But, if you're kind of getting 2 or 3 pieces of coverage every quarter, then obviously then you can kind of see that some things are clicking. So I think it's a good base metric. I think it's just kind of nice for me, at the end of each month to look at coverage numbers. And it's quite a nice feeling, especially when you see some really nice pieces of coverage across trade and tier one media. What I've actually been looking at more is LinkedIn, because what we're really looking at now is like how can social media help amplify a PR campaign. So looking at things such as, because it's very difficult when you've kind of just got a piece of coverage, okay, how many people saw that piece of coverage, but looking at things such as engagement, link clicks, shares, I think it's a good way to kind of see, okay, how much is this getting out there? Impressions, of course, is a bit of a vanity metric, but again, it's kind of a good way to kind of show how many people are kind of seeing this in their feed, and again, it's all part of that brand awareness. So for me, social media analytics are what I'm kind of primarily looking at the moment. I had a really interesting conversation with a PR person last week around AI and machine learning within PR, and I think it's something agencies are starting to do in-house, but using AI and machine learning to really track current trends, what are current trending topics, whether that can be, for example, social media or on, you can even do it on Google at the moment for free, but kind of tracking trending topics, that can be, with influencers or whatever, and using that to kind of determine what are the current trends. And also, I think, in the future, what are the kind of be the next trends? And because you can kind of, with AI machine learning, there is potential for it to kind of map out what could be a next trending topic for your industry or, for your influencers. And I think that'll actually be really powerful. Because it helps, plan PR campaigns and adjust PR campaigns kind of based on what people are talking about. So, you're not trying to pitch something that nobody cares about or no one's talking about in that moment. I think because I've been at Bitmovin for around 6 months now, for me, the PR program I'm kind of overseeing has been really exciting for me, primarily just because it's been focused on building brand awareness of the company and being able to get lots of tier 1 coverage in the first 6 months. And I think having the insights from our CEO and being able to ping him on Slack saying, hey, can I get your thoughts on this? And also just kind of seeing the impact of that within the business, seeing our partnerships team kind of having kind of more people reaching out to them and kind of helping get more customers interested in doing PR with us. And for me, that the current PR program that I'm working on has been really exciting, and also kind of making it more integrated and having a little bit more control over the PR program than I did perhaps at a PR agency has been really enjoyable. So I'd say just kind of the overall PR program for Bitmovin has been really exciting for me, and really rewarding as well. At the moment, so in the first few months, we're actually working towards a big trade show in the US. A lot of the kind of brand was kind of really amplifying brand visibility in the run up to that show. At the moment, we have a second trade show in Amsterdam where we're kind of again doing more brand awareness around that, whether that's kind of like through company announcements, product launches, partnerships, customer announcements, also kind of thought leadership as well. After the trade show in Amsterdam, we will then be kind of actually launching more of our original research. One is our annual video developer report, which really kind of tracks the insights and opinions of video developers and maps out kind of, or provides a snapshot of the trends in the video streaming industry. And then there's another one that I'm working on. I don't want to say too much now because I'm quite excited to kind of like reveal the data that I've been working on with our PR agency, but that's kind of what will be happening in September onwards, which I'm really looking forward to. There's so many. I'd really, I mean, it's something that we just love to know as a PR industry, but just how many leads is this generating? If we could just kind of, like marketing people can do map out like the journey of a lead, from like where they started to, becoming a prospect or lead. It's kind of knowing like how much value we're generating in terms of actual, numbers would be great. And kind of saying to, the person in charge, okay, we generated, £200,000 of revenue this quarter. Like that'd be my dream metric. That'd make life so much easier for everyone. But yeah, I think that would be for me like the ultimate dream. Yeah, I would say if you're a budding comms professional, definitely don't try and box yourself in too early. I definitely had quite a different career path to a lot of PR professionals because I just worked at one PR agency, then went in-house. And I don't regret that decision at all. But I think generally for people, like, do try and move around a little bit early on in your career. Try B2B tech, try B2B tech, try consumer tech, try healthcare, try, corporate communications and figure out what you actually enjoy. And kind of work at different agencies, work at smaller boutique agencies, work at bigger agencies, get that kind of whole well-rounded experience, and just kind of, just work with lots of different companies because it'll give you a really broad experience, and then you can start specializing once you become more senior. I think also generally just really make sure you have really good writing skills. Read a lot. I think reading is so important in part of becoming a good writer. Just practice writing different formats, because actually coming in-house, I've realized how valuable copywriting is as a skill. And it's something that I think everyone should kind of know and understand and refine. So I think definitely make yourself a good copywriter, and I think especially when you go in house, it'll just be people just kind of really appreciate that.